Hello. Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to Design Development Days, sponsored by Adobe XD. Okay, I already see people have joined in. Let the others also join in, and then we'll start with the event in a short while. Till then, let me introduce you to what our topic of discussion today is going to be. Our topic is Git and GitHub as the demand of everyday life. And our speaker is even more special as he is none other than Mr. Anuj Garg. He is the founder of Code for Cause and also the founder of Coding Junior. He is an open source enthusiast and an advanced Java teacher. He has been a GSOCer under the JBoss community of Red Hat Foundation and also has worked in the core teams of various products by Red Hat. He is an expert in enterprise Java and web services. He has been a mentor in GSOC 17 under the umbrella of JBoss community for servers and IoT monitoring, and now the organization admin at GCI 17. Welcome, sir.
Hi. So,
People have joined in. So,
yeah.
just before I hand over to you, guys, if you
Mm-hmm.
have any questions, please ask, post them in the chat section. And one important announcement that today we'll be giving a giveaway from Bubble, who's our sponsor. So, you will have to fill a Google form that will be floated inside the chat section in between the session. So, keep tuned in till the end of the session and yeah, enjoy. Okay, sir, over to you.
Sure. And one more thing, I've opened up the chat in the parallel. So if anyone want to put up any message in the chat, I will be able to see it directly. So you don't have to worry about that. So what I will
Okay, sir.
suggest that keep the session interactive. Okay. So because if it is not interactive, then I will not have the enjoyment, and if I don't have the enjoyment, then you will not have the enjoyment, right? So right. So just 1 second. Let me set things up. Cool. Pop up. Done. Done. And done. Yes. And let me just set up another window as well. Good. Okay, so hello everyone. So I hope you guys are enthusiastic about open source session because I'm everything about open source. Probably what I've heard about, Code for Cause from some time. We have done great work in the community. We have made open source and different kind of playlist. Like if you open our YouTube channel, you will find machine learning boot camp. You will find data cell algorithm boot camp. You will find we are talking to a lot of different high exalted personalities about open source and things. And our key goal is that you guys should know what exactly you want to make. Okay, because code for causes that you should have a reason, right? And open source provide you that reason, why exactly you're doing what you're doing. Okay, so when we're talking about Git and GitHub, the key just is about open source. What exactly Git is providing you is the opportunity to work in open. Okay. Obviously, Git is not in itself just about open source itself. Git is, quite wide and quite different than just the, what I will say, just the open source. Git is like version control system. And let me just share my screen to discuss more about that in detail. So screen is about to share, just 1 second for that. Share screen, bam, and think it's visible. Yes, it is visible. And yep. Okay. So when we talk about version control system, what is a version control system and why it is needed? So version control is more like Maybe you are a designer, maybe you are a developer, or whatever. You want to create something, but the problem with that is you need to manage versions. Why you need to manage versions? Let us suppose you created an image, okay, you made an edit to my file or your file, you want to put a Facebook photo, right? And on the Facebook photo, or Instagram photo, maybe Snapchat or something like what, you want to edit it before putting the final work in the public. And for that you said that you have this like my photo dot png, okay, then my updated photo dot png, my photo latest dot png, okay, you're doing like that. But after some time what happens is that maybe after 2 days 3 days you don't understand that from which photo happened which photo, what was the flow of that, and from which timestamp to the next timestamp, and what changed. Isn't it the same problem you have faced? Maybe with text, maybe with like if you are having an assignment, or maybe if multiple students working on the same website. Have you faced something like this before, where you have multiple versions, but after some time you are totally lost from which version you jumped to which version, what are the change on those versions, and how you can revert from this version to the previous version? Have you guys faced this problem before? And if so, in which exact particular topic or subject or thing, what were you doing when you faced a problem like this? So I would like to see that information to discuss more about what exactly Git and GitHub can solve for that, or what were the other alternatives, how we gradually reached this situation, how we gradually reached this position where we can solve this by these kind of tools. What is the internal mechanism, what is driving this thing, right? So we will discuss everything, but initially we have to understand if you really can relate to this problem, right? So like we have got a few years that yeah, so you were facing this problem before. And what was the problem? That you cannot jump from the current state to the previous state, okay. So for that, if you just have the previous commit pointing to the next commit, previous patch pointing to the next patch, in that case if you are at this state, what generally happens is that every point, at every point you generate some, you do some actions, and because of that you reach to the next state. But what if we revert this situation and we say that every time we make some change we create a patch, but that patch should have information about the previous patch, okay. Patch is the change that we have between two states, okay. This is my old file, this is my new file, and this is the patch, this is the change that I have in this file from coming from converting this file into another file, okay. So if this is the change, this is the change, and this is the change, okay, this patch is there, this patch is there. So if we apply this patch, if this is a patch A and this is a patch B, and patch A is the most initial patch, so if we apply patch B on patch A, we will reach this state. But the same way, what we can say is that if we are at this state and we remove patch B, okay, so the patch should be made in a fashion that it is both editable and removable, okay. So we can add it to reach this state from A to B, and we can remove this patch. We can have some operation where we can move from position B to position A. Okay, so if we can have something like this, are we not allowing the possibility of time travel between your work? Okay, so what we can do now, that you are at this stage of work, but you can move back. Okay, you can move back in this dimension. This makes sense to you, that you're this position, but you can move back to any previous state. But there is more, there's more, like in the case of this, like this is a single branch, okay. But what if we want to create more branch? We are at this state and we want to have a different experiment, okay. We want to have a different experiment. We were writing some code, we were creating a website, and at one point what you thought is that maybe we want to create this blue website, or maybe for Women's Day we want to create a different colored website, okay. This is a different thing that we want to attempt for a particular period of time. And our original changes, our original website should remain intact for that. Okay, we want to make good changes for this, but we don't want to revert everything here and there. Whatever is going good is going good. We just want to revert to this work after everything is done. Okay, we were at this position, and from this position we just want to make these changes. Yes, it is going perfectly fine. But what if from this state, from this IWD day, we want to come back to the normal schedule? How do we do that? So now we have to delete this patch, remove this patch, this patch, this patch, and then we reach this state and then apply this patch, apply this patch. So can you relate something, what exactly is happening? If you guys have heard about linked list or maybe graphs, so can you say that it is more like directed acyclic graph? Directed acyclic graph. How is it more like directed acyclic graph? You're simply saying that you have more like nodes pointing at different nodes, and from this point to this point, or maybe this point to this point, you have to check the complete path. Okay, and obviously there is a way for that, and there is this different thing that it totally put you under that. When we were talking about Git, we you would have simply thought that it is just a different tool, and I can simply just get some commands up and running, and I will totally understand that. But what you would have seen is that if you're just remembering the commands, will that eventually help you? Just learning up the commands, will that eventually help you? Or if you understand how exactly the references, patches, or this linked list and graph like architecture really work, you will never have to remember the commands, right? Because you will understand what exactly a branch is, what exactly you know when we are just creating the branch, we're just creating additional reference, so that if you create the next commit, you will just move ahead on the different line. As simple as that. You don't have to put your energy too much on how exactly everything is happening. Okay, so Luki is asking, can you discuss the patch part again? Okay, so I will discuss the patch part. To understand the patch, you have to understand what a diff is. Okay, what diff is? Diff is the difference between two files. Okay, but not two files like just this part is added. Okay, it is more like this part is deleted and deleted from this line and made into this line. Okay, so diff is the difference between state A and state B. Okay, we can find the difference, what is deleted and what is added, to create from state A to state B, and this thing is called diff. Okay, but when we save this difference in a file, that file is called patch file. Okay, this file is a patch file, and this file can be used and this file can be used to go from A to B and to go from B to A. Isn't that right? If you have this patch file, and that if you can apply this file, if you can apply this patch on A, you can go from A to B, and if you can remove this patch from B, you can go from B to A. Are you able to understand this, guys? Comfortable? Okay, so point is, patch contain all the changes in the file or repository. Okay, so thing is that if you consider the traditional thing, then patch only contain the changes in the file. But when you talk about Git or the modern system, in that case, that particular patch contain the changes in the whole repository. So that is the difference that happened in between what? SVM, the CVS, SVM, and Git. Okay, so in the CVS, all the commits were file based. Okay, in the SVM, the commits, sorry, in the CVS, the commits were file based. In the SVM, commits were now the folder based. But the problem was that when you created a branch, SVM is subversion. Okay, subversion. Okay, SVN is subversion. So subversion is by Apache, and what exactly it did was, whenever you needed to create branch, the problem was that you had to completely copy the whole code. Okay, so if you have software that, probably Linux, the complete code is approximately like let us suppose 500 MB. So to create a new branch, you will have to copy the whole code. Okay, and then you can move forward from this. But can you understand what is the problem with this? Because like when you talk about get a different kind of version control system, they very frequently say to create a new branch for a different kind of work. But in case of Apache Subversion, whenever you create a new branch, you are simply copying the whole code, and that is too cumbersome for your memory, right? Because that is every time you create a branch, you are just copying a lot of content, right? And that will create a big hiccup with the system itself, because like if you have if you create 20 branches, then you have 20 branches of each of 500 MB. That whole code that could be stored in approximately 400 to 500 MB is now containing 10 GB of your system. And you generally work on a lot of different softwares in the system, and because of that, especially when you're talking about the folder copying itself, if you are building the whole source code and then generating the output itself as well, in that case what you can even consider that all build files will also be generated for individual one, and because of that even more space is being consumed. And especially that it was more about the centralization. So because of that, in case of Apache Subversion, what you had to do is that not complete Git, the complete repository was at your local. You had to interact with the Subversion server. So because of that, if you are like flying, or if you are at if you're not connected to internet, you could not say that I want this latest change, I want that latest change, or I want to save this particular change as a commit, because all the changes and everything as a commit will be generated at the remote location. But do you really like that? No, you don't. What you want is that all the changes before I want to push should be with me. And at that point, Git is pretty awesome. Okay, Git is pretty awesome. Why? Because now with the help of this Git, what you can do, everything is local till you want to make it public. Okay, so every Git repository in itself is the complete system. So you have all the concept of branch and everything. So it is more like even if you have the Git installed on your system, and then you provide the capability of SSH and HTTP protocols, then you can have your own GitHub kind of thing. Okay, so the only difference is that you will not have the concept of pull request, because that will need a few bit more complicated things, because pull request is more like you are saying that I don't directly have the access to push at your code. I don't directly have the access to change your code, but I am just saying that you can put this code in your code, as simple as that. Pull request is simply saying that you probably would have heard about about pull request, that one should create pull request in open source contributions, and so because of that your value arises and things like that. So point is that when you're talking about your contribution in open source, and making the pull request, what you're simply doing is that this is my change, this is my patch, or these are the sequence of my patches, and this is your software. Okay, where your patches and things are. I want to apply these patches to your work. Okay, but obviously, does this make sense that anyone can push code at your repository? Should it work like that? That anyone can, in Git, anyone can change the code of anyone and push the change at your repository. Is that something you would like to see? Yes or no? Do you want someone to change your code without your knowledge or without your acceptance? That will be too too bad, right? That is not something you would like to see, or you would like to face. What you want is that if you put up the request, okay, and if they accept that, in that case your changes will be accepted here. Okay, and that thing is pull request, right? So that thing is pull request, that accept my changes. Here my changes, just accept those changes. Okay, so that is a pull request. So concept like pull request, issues and things like that, those are not part of Git itself, that is part of GitHub. Okay, so can you understand what is difference between Git and GitHub? So Git is like a tool and GitHub is more like a service. Okay, service provider and service uh, like Gmail and email. So you can have Gmail only with Google, but you can have different email services, right? So you can have email with Yahoo, you can have email with Microsoft, you can have email with a lot of companies. So like you can use Git with GitHub, or you can use Git with Bitbucket. Okay, you can use Git with GitLab. Okay, there are a lot of other companies with which you can use Git. Or maybe if you don't want to do anything public, or maybe if you just want to make your own Git server, you can even have the normal Git, you know Git version control system, Git SCM. ठीक है, source control management. ठीक है, so you can simply install Git SCM and then just use its inbuilt SSH and HTTP protocols. And with the help of that on your local IP, or maybe you can have a public IP, you can just open up that, you can push into my code. Just you should have these credentials, right? So that is as simple as that. These are just different services from which you can use depending on the features and the values and the pricing you are being provided with. Like GitHub provide, initially GitHub was like that, if you want to create a private repository, for that you will have to pay. Okay, but now GitHub is more like that, like you can create public repository, you can create private repository. Till you are reaching this point, everything is free. Okay, so it is more like that, there was a hindrance for GitHub of some time back when you were expecting some private projects, but that is kind of gone. And that have created a big impulse, uh, on the inflow of everything that is happening on the GitHub itself. Okay, so that is good. That is creating the centralization point. And one more reason why everybody, even though you can use Git with a lot of other services, why people are liking GitHub is, one more reason is that it is quite old. And because the creator of Git, that is Linus Torvald, that you know GitHub is kind of able to keep him at the platform. Like if you open, sorry, Linus Torvalds. Okay, awesome guy. So creator of Linux. Here is the code of Linux. As simple as that, you can reach the code of Linux. So pointers that Torvalds is the creator of Linux and Git. Okay, and he is at GitHub, so it is more like have created a big trust of people on GitHub itself. Okay, so these are different kind of tactics that company use to have more confidence of the audience, right? So he is also part of the Linux Foundation. And if you just explore, the second thing that I want to emphasize on is the open source contribution. So the point is, when you contribute open source, you have a public display of what you're doing. If I just open on a single thing, we can simply see, like at this point, at that day, Linus created 4 commits in this repository. We want more details. These are the commits at this Linus. And if we want even, okay, these are the commits, these are the thing he was doing. So these are the kind of thing you can showcase with the help of GitHub. Like if you want to put your things on the resume, right? Yeah, that I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing that. So one thing is you can like be that I have learned these 10 or 15 languages. Okay, like I have, maybe you can be like that I have done C, C++, Java, Python, Ruby, Golang, and things like that. But you haven't really done something with it. You cannot really showcase what you have done. Or maybe you have worked for a corporate, or maybe you have done an internship. Yeah, you have done an internship for a month or two. But point is that you cannot really showcase that what you have really done. Then does it make any sense? Does it really provide you any benefit? You can write on your resume that I have worked with this, and like I have worked with this ABCQ1, yeah, something like that. Let us suppose a random company. But what is the proof that you have that you have really learned something, you have really made something during that internship period? Okay, so point is that generally you are even binded by non-disclosure agreement, things like that, and because of that you don't really can showcase what you have learned at such kind of places. But when you are in open source, when you can really showcase what you have done and what you have learned, that provide much more beneficial output. You can really give something that makes sense. You can really showcase something that makes sense. Like if we talk about like a project, a GitHub project, Kiali. Okay, let me just open that up in all GitHub. This is a JBoss project. Okay, and let us suppose we talk about maybe pull request, closed pull requests, and we talk about this guy. So what this guy can do, if he want to showcase that I have done this thing on this project, he can simply take up this link and put it in its resume, in his resume, and whenever someone click on this, they will get that how many pull requests on this project this guy would have made. On that, on any particular pull request, how exactly, what is the kind of, what is the quality of code this guy is writing, what is the way he is communicating with the team, how much time does it take for him to be approved, and how does he get, his code get merged. Okay, and why this kind of information matters to the person who's hiring you? Because that is the thing that you are going to do. Generally you guys have this question, what I'm going to do when I'm in company. What is the thing that a person at the company does, what we do in job, right? So that is a question. So like when you are working with open source, when you are working in these kind of project, this is the thing that will help you out. Okay, this is the thing that will showcase. Okay, so this is the thing that you have to do. Does that make sense? Okay, so and even more, like when we're talking about the open source itself, generally there is a big question like how to start with open source. Okay, so what I generally suggest is that even though any open source organization you can start with, but generally not a lot of organization, not all of the organizations are at every time capable of receiving people. It is more like that, even if I'm at like in India we say atiti devo bhava, but it is not like that you are very happy when atiti comes at 3 a.m. Are you? It was more like that, by sone de. I just want to sleep. At this point I'm not very energetic to help you, energetic to serve you. Okay, so atiti ka tum ab jaoge, you are in at that mode when you are not very willing to even though you have the respect for athitis, but you not every time you want to treat someone. At some point you are more like that, let me just be myself. So even though open source organizations are open source organizations, but even at that point, sometimes they are more like attending to college students, sometimes they're not. Especially why I'm putting emphasis on the college students, because college students are a bit messy. College students are more like that, they will create more chaos than the real work itself. Isn't that right? When you join something, it is more like, hello, my name is this, I do that. You put a lot of emphasis on yourself than the work itself. And organization have to put a lot of energy on telling you how to do and what to do and why not to do, and things, a lot of things they have to help you with. So it is because of that, not every organization at every time is willing to cop up with the college student. But there are a few organizations who want new blood in the organization, and because of that they take part in Google Summer of Code outreach and events like that. So what I suggest that even if you're interested in the program itself or not, even if you're not interested in the GSOC, or maybe you're not feeling up to it, maybe you're not feeling that you are ready for GSOC, but at the same time what you can do is that just open up the website and just see what exactly you have, what different organizations that you have here. And on those different organizations, what you can do is just see what attracts you. Like if you are a music guy, like Audacity, you can go and join. Like if you are interested in animation and 3D modeling, you can go for Blender. If you are interested in like electronics kind of boards like microcontroller and microprocessor, you can go for Beagleboard. You can go for Chapel, like if you're interested in like a modern language. You can go for Chromium. You can go from Koala if you are interested in the code, linting and fixing. If you're interested in like Python framework like Django, if you are like VLC, it is like VLC famous encoder decoder at FFmpeg. Like whenever you are using VLC, 99% of the time you are using FFmpeg for encoding and decoding within the VLC. Okay, so there are a lot of organization connected to a lot of things. Especially there is or nice and shiny organization JBoss. So JBoss is the organization I was GSOC student in. I was GSOC mentor, and from last 4 years now, I'm GSOC admin with JBoss community. We this GSOC period has started, I think, few days back, and we have this idea list, nice and shiny idea list, and within this GSOC, within this JBoss, so Code for Cause is also participating. Okay, so that I founded and co-founded with a few members. I started with this Code for Cause organization. So this is a very awesome open source organization that you can take a look at. What exactly different kind of things we do and how we do, and what is the benefit that you can take through us. So you can go and check out our website and things and projects that we are talking about. You can take a look at the different projects, the project in which we are talking about 100% education in India and platform to create that, right? So these are two projects that we are putting up within Code for Cause. Okay, so it's not like that just go for these two projects and ignore everything else. JBoss is pretty awesome organization. So one thing that you shall avoid is that there is a Gitter link. Gitter link is not just like that, go and ask any question kind of thing. So if you have a specific question about a specific project, it is much better if you can go to that project and connect to the mentor or their GitHub repository discussion or like issues itself, right? So that is much more convenient and that is much more direct, because not all the mentors are on this Gitter, that is a common Gitter channel. Okay, so even if you come to that Gitter channel and ask the questions, we will have to direct you to the specific channel that that will provide you the better responses. Okay, so but if you want like communicate with Code for Cause and on our project, then what you can simply do is that we have provided like different channels have provided different way to communicate. Like this project have provided the matrix link. Our project have provided the Discord link on which you can communicate. Just 1 second. Yeah. Yeah. So project chat is at GSOC channel at this. So you can simply join our Discord and then you can come and talk to us. Okay, so we have even made Edu client and Edu server as different projects, and you can join the chat on the individual channel itself as well. Okay, so that is one dimension to go, and what I said that it is more like that these are different projects and different things by which you can start, but it is not like that. It is not like that you have to do the gsoc, right? Or you should be prepared for it, like you are going to do gsoc. Okay, so gsoc or things like that are more like the way to do it. Like it is more like this is the path that generally these organizations help you with. Okay, so if you do not have events like gsoc and things like that, it is more like you will not able to find the organizations who are interested or capable at moment to engage with the college student. Okay, but at this particular time organizations are interested, you are interested, you can take part, you can continue with that organization. And the point is that even if you clear or don't clear the gsoc, what will matter that how much you continue with that particular organization. Like I continued with JBoss from these many years, and this really helped me with the normal things out, right? So when I started with this code for cause, a lot of resources came in from Red Hat, right? uh, I have got connections for a lot of things, right? So especially like this code for cause is taking part with JBoss community in the gsoc itself. So that is the way we are connected, that is the way we get connected with the organizations and communities, right? So whatever you do after that, if you're connected with the organization, then it provide you some benefits, it provide you some connections, it provide you some output, right? So and it, obviously it is more both give and take kind of thing with the organizations, right? So we are working for the organizations and organization is helping us out. And same way as you are a student, you can code for the organization, and the same way you will have better profile, you will have better outputs, you will have if you try to go for job, you can obviously you can get a job at Red Hat itself. If you're communicating at if you're contributing at JBoss community, you can get a job at Red Hat. It is quite old trend that if you are a contributor, then later on you can get an internship or a job at Red Hat. That is much more direct as compared to openly just applying. Okay, so that is quite comfortable way, I will say that, because now that organization know what you do and how you do. They do not simply have to judge you based on some 1 day or 2 day tests. And I'm quite not inspired by the thought of 1 day or 2 day test or maybe 3 hours test, because generally 3 hour test is more like that you are in a pressurized environment and you just have to perform. But I will say that 90% of the failure happen because the student is not just ready for that. We generally get a lot of headache and a lot of pressure just because we have to prepare ourselves for some small span of time. Is that really a good way to do things? If somebody really understand what you are, how can they understand it with maybe 2 hours or 3 hours test, or maybe 1 day or 2 day interview process? But what if somebody can have the time to communicate with you or work with you for maybe a week, 2 week, 4 weeks, a month, 2 months, 6 months? So if somebody have worked with you for 6 months, even if you guys have rarely communicated, if you guys have just seen the work of each other, are you not comfortable telling what exactly you're expecting from that person? Especially if you are expert of that particular thing, you can just scroll through the things that that guy is doing on the regular basis, and you will know that if you really want to hire that person or not. Isn't that right? That makes sense to everyone? Cool. So let me just, yeah, cool. Cool. That makes sense. Cool. So that was the general thought that I wanted to put up with this session. So now you can put up your questions and the things that you want to know from me. Okay, and yeah, so and certainly if you want to know about open source Git and GitHub, the great resource, one of a quite great resource is our YouTube channel. Sorry, I placed dot at wrong place, code cause YT, or you can just search code for cause at the YouTube, and you will have our channel, pretty interesting channel. You will have great things here. You will have community related playlist. You have, sorry, machine learning related playlist, you have Python related playlist, you have DSL related playlist, you have a lot of things that you can have here for free. And a lot of content is, most of the content is pretty great quality content, kind of rare to find content. And especially if you have particular questions about MLH and things like that, we have done a lot of great discussions with a lot of awesome podcast with a lot of uh, great people. Like you can see Mike Swift from MLH. You can see this GitHub Star of the Year. You can see you can see a lot of people. It will be bad to just name a few. It is quite great. You can see a lot of things. You can explore a lot of things. Just go for code for cause. Just Google search code for cause, and you will find where everywhere. Okay. So, do we have got some questions? Okay. So I suppose we don't have questions. So I will just stop sharing my screen. Tavlin, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, sure. So, okay, chalo, we have got a few questions now. I was thinking that the questions are over, but we have got a
Yes.
few. Yeah, so what are the opportunities do we have in web development in GSOC? So we have great opportunities in GSOC for web development, because I think if you talk about web development is not just limited to the front end. We have opportunities in the front end, we have opportunities in the back end. It is more like that. I will say the one third of the development is web development only. Okay, because whatever you do, it is somehow connected to either provide either exposing the web APIs or consuming the web APIs, and both of the part of the full stack web development, right? So in total, you will have something. If I will say the trending technologies that you can have for the especially maybe GSOC or open source, you can say, is either React or Angular, things like that. So you can go in that dimension. The next question is there anything similar platform for designers? So for designers, I don't have very detailed knowledge, but yeah, Git and kind of platforms can really provide you great kind of things for a lot of designers as well use Git. Okay, because it is not just that because what you will see that designs are not simply the things that happen like just the pixels itself. So eventually, if you see some time before, what generally used to happen with designs was that you're just simply updating the image itself. Okay, updating the main content itself, but now everything happen in the format of I will say operation scheduling. Okay, so because of that, what happens is, in case of normal design creation, that you have different operation. And if you are let us suppose we talk about the Photoshop, then even after 300 or 400 operations, you can revert back each and every operation, right? So why you can revert back all the operations? Because all the operations are created in the format of patch. There is no other way you can traverse back, right? So if you even if you talk about if you even if you try to understand that way that everything is happening in the Photoshop, that is more like a version control system itself. And what if you can label that? Okay, so obviously Git might not be the exact thing that you are looking for that kind of way, but when you're talking about even designs, the version control system is very important. Okay. Okay, so Suresh is saying that some developers also post their admin access to the GitHub source. What do you think about it? So point is that many times it is the requirement, but admin access not is not generally the admin access itself. If a person is putting up the required, the most important thing of, and point is in the GitHub source, what GitHub public source. So if a person is putting the required public, I will say the required, I will say important information that will expose the real data, that is bullishness, but generally that is not the case that happens. What generally, especially like what our organization does, that so that a person who is running the code, we create a separate dummy database and things like that, and then we push those information in the code itself, so that when anybody is running the code, they will have something to, they will not have to inject all the required files together to execute it. You will have all the files that you will need. Generally those are placeholders, or those are pointing to the staged environment or development environment. Okay, so but if someone is providing their production environment variables in the GitHub, that is quite bad, obviously. Khyati, any tips for people who want to start out by learning any programming language? So I will say that generally the first programming language should be either Python, JavaScript, or Java. Okay, so why I do not generally suggest C or C++? Because you cannot really use them a lot in development, and that really put initial hindrance on your development part. Okay, so I started to learn working with Git by documentation provided there and courses, but it is a bit confusing in the beginning. Can you explain the good way? Okay, so if you understand it in the format of linked list and directed acyclic graph, if you have a basic understanding of linked list, but how exactly it works. So even we already have at Code for Cause, we have a I will say 50 minutes video that explain the things in that fashion, so that it is much more convenient for you to understand how exactly things are happening within. If you just understand what is command for what, that is always confusing, right? You cannot remember all the commands for everything. Cool. So I have started to learn working with Git by documentation. Cool. Being experienced and designer, I'm very new to Git and GitHub systems. I keep on messing with the version control systems. Just a better article or course. Yeah. So point is that as you build up, you will have confusions and you will screw things up, and that is totally okay. So there are a lot of resources, but eventual thing is that you have to understand how things internally work within Git. Okay, and for that I told that just start thinking Git like a directed acyclic graph, and just keep and understanding things how exactly things would have worked within a graph itself, right? So with the help of that, you will have better understanding. So what do you suggest about GitHub profile that would attract interviewers? Yeah, so obviously it will attract interviewers, especially if you put it, especially if you put like, this is my GitHub repository and these are the things I have done. It is not like that you haven't provided, even if you do whatever you want, even if you do not brand it, if you do not publish it, then people will not know. So if you put it in the resume that this is the thing I do, this is the place I do, then people will know. Okay. Starting point is you can go through our open source playlist and the Git video. So that is a simple video that you can start with. After that, this guy, uh, probably you guys have heard about New Boston. So New Boston tutorial might seem like old, but it is still I will say awesome resource to have, right? So if you want to learn Git, you can just on the YouTube can search New Boston Git playlist. You will find the playlist, and that is pretty good resource to have. Don't learn GitHub from there, but because the GitHub they are talking about is quite old, because the video was a few years back, but rest of the content is quite same. Okay. Uh, Lucas saying, explain how the service would help designer to manage documentation and design project, being someone who is not into coding. Yeah. So, point is, if you talk about documentation, then Markdown is must, kind of must markup language that you can go with. And GitHub have I will say the normal integration with Markdown. So let us suppose you want to keep your data and especially put up some documentation along with it. Then what you can do is, let us suppose I'm just creating an empty repository, and let me just create a basic file for it, maybe a readme. Okay, so like this hash represent h1, that is main heading. Okay, or like subheadings with double hash and triple hash, the size will reduce down. Okay, and things like that, just keep on adding up. And with the help of these kind of things, you can maybe like add up images like this. Maybe we take this. Doesn't seem like good URL. हाँ इसमें लोचा है. This is good. Isn't it great? You're not really writing HTML itself. You're just having some basic understanding of Markdown, and because of that, you can attach your resources, display, how things happened, what was the initial version, what is the final version. Oh, sorry. I'm not showcasing my screen. Let me just open that up. Okay. Nope. Yes. Cool. Okay, so like this, we just created a normal sample repository. On that, you created a basic file. On this file, you like hash for main heading, triple hash for smaller heading, this kind of thing for like creating a small, image, and these kind of thing, you can use. Sorry. Look, like these kind of thing you can use to showcase how exactly the structure of your design process went. Okay, so that makes sense, right? So these are the few things that you can take care of. So that's it. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yes, sir. So I think we're done with questions here.
Cool.
I have one question, sir, that
Sure.
I really want to know about your journey. I mean, from JBoss community, and then how did you end up founding this Code for
Code
Cause?
for cause.
And yeah, I mean, how was
Yeah.
it?
Cool. So it is more like started from a single point where I was in college and I thought that there should be a reason. There should be a reason why we are doing everything. And I thought my reason should be 100% education in India. And from there, a point came in that okay, I want to do something that makes sense. And in 2016, I started a small community named Coders Community. But obviously, I just graduated from the college, and you know, it is a bit difficult when you are at crunch of resources and you start a community, and
Yeah.
I will change the world. Okay, so after that, it was like, okay, so it is not working out. Let me just do something else. Do something what? So I joined coding blocks at that time. Okay, so because it was partially aligned with the goal that I was at. So it is more like that, empowering the coders. So I joined there, and I worked there for 3 years. In between, I tried a few different communities that partially worked, but eventually it was like that. Okay, so I need to full time focus my energy on this idea, where we can create a community that can solve problems, that can eventually create things and sustain things. Like during a lot of hackathons happen where a lot of students create a lot of small resources or small things that are nice ideas, but there is not a proper place where they can come together, learn, and create those things on a level where this really sustain in the environment, right? So obviously, for creating such things, we need designers as well, we need developers as well, we need people who can promote as well, right? Because like
Right.
we talk about 100% education in India. Okay, so it is not like that only a few coders can come and just typing some code, and now India is 100% educated. It will not happen like that, right? So
Obviously.
same way, yeah. So especially in that dimension, and yeah, that is nice thing, that is nice thing to remember, that we are hiring, we are in search of some design interns, right? So, and as I see that a lot of people who will be watching the stream are taking a look at for that. So I will just provide you, or maybe I can type the email here, you can put that in the chat of me. Okay, career@codesforpurpose.org. So you guys can drop your portfolio for what you have already done. So and you can share the email and the requirement with your friends as well. So uh, what we are expecting is, we are expecting two interns. One is good with UI, maybe current work is mostly with Figma. Okay, so if you are good with Figma, that is more comfortable for us, because you will be able to use the previous existing resources. It is not like that मैं तो सब कुछ शुरू से बनाऊंगा, ठीक है? So right, so that is important for us. And the second requirement is for normal posters and things that we need to put at all the platforms, so that designer is also required. Primary requirement that we have is with the Figma one, because the second is expanding thing. First is like primary thing that we have as per our requirement right now. Okay, cool. So so I was just telling that
Awesome.
yeah, cool.
Yes, sir. Continue.
Thank you. See you. Bye.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out time and joining us. We know you're a very busy man, and thank you so much for honoring us with your presence. And of course, we had this one giveaway, and this golden opportunity has been given to us by sir. So, guys, the link is attached, and you can check out the chat section for the link and upload your portfolio, send them to him. Yeah. And we will be sharing Sir's LinkedIn in the chat section as well, so that if any of your queries remain unanswered, you can ask them, connect with him. And that's it, sir. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you guys for joining in and giving your precious time to us. We are also attaching the link to the community joining form, and please become a member and join us. And the last thing is that's feedback form. You can fill the feedback form, and we would love to know your feedback. And for the remaining details, you can ping us and DM us anything. Thank you so much for joining in. That's all from my side.